Okay, so we're going to start on the training assessment strategy. I'm going to share with you my desktop because we're going to have a look at the desktop of a training and assessment strategy for you. So if you could just let me know if you can see my desktop. Just need someone. You should see training and assessment strategy. Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Great. Okay. So the training and assessment strategy is one of the most important documents that you're going to go to audit with. It is the one that the auditors will look at before you go to audit, and then they will absolutely dissect it at the audit. So if we don't have everything correct in the training and assessment strategy before we go to audit, it'll be a non-compliance and we'll have to fix it. So the training and assessment strategy is your strategy on how you plan to deliver and assess your training and assessment. So it should include everything like information from the training package, which your client liaison officer will do for you. So they'll put in all the information from the training package for you before it even goes to you. The one you can see on my desktop here is it hasn't been completed, so it's still. Once the CLOs plug in all the information from the training package, you'll get that copy, and then your job is to review it and include things like how you wish to deliver, where you wish to deliver, the resources you're going to have in place, all of that sort of stuff. So you need to plug in all that information. So you'll see this template has been color coded, and the color coding is basically everything in yellow is what your CLO will plug in. And then the green bits is where we're asking you some questions and we're getting you to fill in a bit of information. And there's also pink bit we're going to get you to fill in some information as well. So I'll go through each part of it. So at the top of the training assessment strategy is the training product, and it will have the qualification code and title in there. And then we'll put the training package that's relevant to. Here where it says outline, this is where we need you to put in here basically why you want to put this qualification on your scope. So it should be a couple of paragraphs long. So it basically should say, okay, so it could be that you need to put this qualification on your scope because there's been a legislative change that requires the industry now to have this qualification or this unit of competency. An example I can give you is in the family daycare industry. A couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, they changed the requirements for all their staff. So the major requirement was, it used to be in family daycare, you could work in family daycare without any qualification. You just had to meet some minimum safety requirements and have your room, your house set up for safety purposes and things like that. And you had to do police record checks, and you had to have asthma and anaphylaxis and first aid. Well, now they have to have a minimum of a Certificate 3 in childhood education and care. So that is a good reason why you're putting this on your scope. So that's just an example of one that you want to put it on. It could be that the reason why you're putting this qualification on your scope is you currently work in this industry, and so it might be security industry, and you want to provide training that supports the security industry. So it might be you want to do first aid training that's specifically going to be for security industry. We had a client recently who we just got through registered, and he went to audit with just first aid, and the first aid training he was doing was specifically for security officers. So his outline was how he's developed this training specifically for the security industry. So that just gives you an example of what should be in the outline. Do you have any questions? Does anybody have any questions about the outline? If you do, just pop it in the chat section there. No? If you do, for the people who've just joined us, please type in any questions you may have as we go along, specifically to training and assessment strategies only. There will be time at the end for you to ask your other questions that you may have. Okay. So the next section is Industry Skills Council. As I said, all the yellow sections will be completed by your CLO, so this will already be completed when you get this. And the Industry Skills is the governing body who releases the training package for the qualification that you are putting in your training and assessment strategy. That's basically what that means. Packaging rules. Some qualifications have requirements around the units of competency in there. So you must include, so one thing that will be a major part will, you have to have a certain amount of core and a certain amount of electives. And overall, this is how many units should be in there. But there may also be requirements like you must, if you're delivering this unit, you must also deliver this unit. So we need to break it down to, okay, so if you've selected a unit that has a requirement, a prerequisite is what they call it, if it has a prerequisite of another unit, then you have to either make sure the student's already done that previously before they come into the course, or you put it in with this qualification and you put it in all together. Okay, that's packaging rules. Unit of competency. So this is information, it's all based from training.gov.au. And it's just, what is your application of a unit of competency? So it could be that you've decided not to go with a full qualification, you've decided to go with a skill set. So instead of doing the full qualification requirements, which would be the package rules above, we're actually going to just focus on a skill set and unit of competencies, because package rules apply to a full qualification, whereas this unit of competency, we can break it down to the skill set only or single units that you want to add. So we are either going to do the package rules or we're going to do the unit of competency application. So one or the other will go into the TAS. Pathways is for full qualifications only. Full qualifications, they'll state, so once you complete this certificate 3, for example, you can enter into a certificate 4 or a diploma, and that's your pathway with this training. It could be that you do a diploma level and you could enter into higher ed. And that is in the training package. So the CLO will just pull that out of the training package and they'll pop that in there for you. Foundation skills. Foundation skills is a new section this year. It used to be employability skills and now they've changed it to foundation skills. Not all the training packages have foundation skills in them yet. So if they're still the old training package, they don't have those in there yet. So what will happen is we'll try and refer back. We've got set foundation skills that we'll use and we'll just use those set ones if they don't have the foundation skills in there. So foundation skills are the skills and knowledge that the student should acquire from doing this training. So part of the outcomes of the training and assessment should be that they achieve this in the course. And what I find at audit is the auditor will not only look at the unit of competency, they'll also look at the foundation skills and what skills should they acquire through the course. So it could be a learning one. So learning could be, what sort of skills they should be learning other than, and it's on learning. And the reading one is the level of reading skills that they should have when they come out of this course. Writing skills, once again, so the level of writing skills, and there might be specific writing skills. So if it's a diploma level qualification, it might be that they need to be able to write reports and understand reports. And the reading might be that they have to understand and read those reports. But if it's a certificate 2 level, it might be just very basic. And they won't have all of them. They'll only have the ones that are relevant to that qualification. So you'll have some certificate 2 levels that may only have reading and writing and don't have anything else in there. And then you'll have other ones will have all of them in there. Okay, so you've got oral communication. So the oral communication is what they would expect a student to be able to perform within the training and assessment. So for example, we had one recently for rail corridor, and in rail corridor, it had that they had to have effective oral communication skills. So we had to add into the assessment task a section on oral communication. And it was just basically, we asked some questions like, was the student able to participate in class? Did they participate well? Were they communicating with the trainer? Did they ask questions? Were they able to answer questions? So we just added, and this was one where the client wrote the assessment tool themselves. So we just added a couple of questions at the end about communication skills. And that's basically, you know, if you're writing your own, you'll find you'll have to add these things. Majority of the assessment tools that you purchase should have these already included. So numeracy, it might be that they need to be able to operate a calculator. It might be that they need to do basic mathematics. If they're at a diploma level in accounting, they would need to be able to use complex formulas and calculations, and most probably would need to use software like Excel spreadsheet and things like that. And digital literacy is computer skills. So basically the type of computer skills that they're going to need when they complete this course. So that's basically foundation skills. It's all to do with the skills that they should, on top of the unit of competencies and what's in the performance criteria of each unit, is they should also come out with these skills as well. And most assessment tools that you purchase should have these in here if the training package requires it. But you can't guarantee that because they don't always do that. So you should be checking. You should be checking, okay, so your CLO will put the foundation skills. They'll find them for you and put from the training package and plug these in. So you should make sure your assessment tools include this. Okay, next section is units of competencies. So the units of competencies is you need to, we will plug in here the unit. So your CLO will know what the core units are, but you have to select the electives. They might come up with an example, but you will need to put the electives in there. And this overall, this is your responsibility to just make sure that we've got all the electives in there. We might have some examples of other qualifications with electives that we've used before, or it could be just what you can buy in assessment tools. So you need to go to your publisher and actually find out what assessment tools do they have and what units could we select for the electives, so what we can have in here. These other columns here, so you've got self-paced hours, face-to-face hours, work placement hours, and total volume of learning. In the last column for the total volume of learning, your CLO is going to put the nominal hours. So there's the Victorian government still keeps a list of all the nominal hours. So they'll actually go onto that list and look up your units of competencies and find out what the nominal hour is for each one of those units of competencies. Now, the nominal hour is not a, you know, you have to do this. It's you've got no choice. You've got to do these hours. It's more a guideline on where you should be. So if it says the nominal hours are 60 and you're only doing 5, you need to validate why you're only doing 5, because that's a big difference. But if the nominal hours are 60 and you're doing 55, then that would be much closer and you'll get through with that. That shouldn't be a problem. So they'll put the nominal hours in there. So the nominal hours is your total volume of learning. Now, just because it's 60 hours doesn't mean that your face-to-face hours have to be 60 hours. That's not the requirement at all. What it is we need to work out, okay, before they're coming the course or when they're doing the course and part of the assessment requirements, they might have 4 hours of self-paced learning that they need to do. So it might be pre-reading, it might be the time it takes them to complete assessments, it might be tasks that they have to do from home, it could be an online activity you give them, it could be a range of different things that they do in those self-paced hours. And you just really make it up, but it should be based on your weakest student in the classroom. So whatever your weakest student will be, that's how many hours you should put in there, so that you've allowed plenty of time for them to be able to do that self-paced learning hours. Now, the face-to-face hours is actually what they're going to do in the classroom. So we're going to say 40 hours for this unit. I'm just making up a unit. So 40 hours for this unit. And so in the classroom, they will do 40 hours just on this unit alone. Now, you might find there are some units that you'll cluster and the hours may be between, so you might do 3 units together and it might be 60 hours for the 3 units. So you should do 20, 20, 20. So just break it up between the 3 units. Or we could actually merge the columns together and say that's 60 hours for the cluster. We can also do clusters where we can merge the columns together and do the cluster together that way as well. Now, some Qualifications require work placement. Not all of them do. If you don't do work placement, we just leave this as 0. But if you have a qualification that does require work placement, then we need to put the work placement hours in here. So what have we got? 16 left. So we've got 40, 50, 60 hours, and there's our total volume of learning. Now, this is not an exact science. The auditors aren't going to go, no, that's not enough, and you've got it all out of order. And there's no exact, you must do this self-paced, you must do this face-to-face, you must do this workplace. Unless the work placement one is only if the industry stipulates that you must have work placement, like childcare and aged care, they've stipulated in the training package the hours that you've got to do for work placement. So you have to do those hours, minimum of those hours. You can do more, but they have to do a minimum. So you need to work out with your qualification, how many hours would they do self-paced? Now, say if you're just doing a single unit, the single unit, like I think on average, you're going to be doing anywhere between 2 hours minimum self-paced hours up to 10 to 20 self-paced hours, depending on the unit and the qualification that you're doing. So even if you're just doing a first aid unit, you should be sending to them before the course some reading, so pre-course reading. And so they need to complete that beforehand. So you could just put 2 hours. And once again, as I said before, it's your worst case scenario student. So if you just put 2 hours in, and they've got ample time to be able to do the pre-reading before they come and do the course. So 2 hours is quite suitable for a single unit, and then what you're going to do face-to-face. And then we're going to try and get that total volume of learning up to the actual hours in the nominal hours or somewhere around those nominal hours. Now, this is a huge area where there are constant non-compliances during audit. We're getting much better with our clients, and because we're getting much harder on you guys as well, making sure that we do get this total volume of learning. Now, they're not going to come in afterwards, after you get your registration, and say, you didn't do these hours, and why didn't these students do these hours? They're not going to do things like that. They'll come to your re-registration, and they'll look at your students, and they'll look at the outcomes. If the students are achieving what they should be achieving, even though they might be doing less hours than what was on the TAS, they're going to be happy because they're achieving what they should be achieving. If they're not, and you're getting complaints and you're getting issues, then they're going to go back to your hours and look at why are the students not completing the hours that you said that they were going to do in the TAS and things like that. So they're going to be issues further down. So I don't want you to stress over what these hours are going to be, because it's just really important that we have it's more of an outline that we're going to give the auditor so that the auditor can map out what you're going to be doing with this training, and that you're going to be giving the student ample time to prepare for the course and doing their readings, and they're going to have ample time in their face-to-face hours to be able to achieve the outcomes required for the performance criteria within the unit of competency. So that's what they're really concerned about. So the other part with this is, with all of these hours, these need to match your session plan or your delivery and assessment plan. So we've got, we've given you a delivery and assessment plan template, and in that template, we've given you an outline of how to put together the course, training timetable, work placement hours, and things like that. I'm going to go into that a bit further later on. So I just was giving you a quick snapshot of that. Okay. All right. So really important that you, in your units of competency, really break down those hours, that it's really clear for the student what the self-paced hours are, what the face-to-face hours, if they have to do work placement, what those hours are, and the total volume of learning. So these are really important areas that you need to have in your TAS. Okay, right. Oh, and then we'll have your total hours down here for the whole course. And this information we're going to put on your course flyer. So it's really important that we get those total hours as well. Okay, so this section here is rationale. The rationale is it's more so for full qualifications than single units of competency. It's more so why did you select the units that you selected? So if you've got a full qualification, and in particular the electives, why did you select those electives? So it could be that you're doing a childcare qualification and it's going to be specifically for family daycare. So you chose units in that childcare qualification that would meet the family daycare requirements. So that's your rationale. So we've chosen these units because they meet the family daycare requirements and they work really well with these other units, blah, 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 something like that. Or the rationale could be something like you've done a skill set. And so that skill set could have been confined space, and there's 4 units within the skill set for confined space. And your rationale is we've chosen these 4 units because this is what's required in the industry. So we've chosen these 4 because it's an industry requirement, and it could have been feedback that you received from industry is one of the reasons why you've decided to put these units together. So that's basically rationale. It's just why did you choose these units, and it doesn't have to be really long. It's just the reason why you've put it together. And it could be you're doing streams in a qualification as well. So why have you put these streams together this way? It could be an industry requirement, or it could be, you could be doing a business qualification where they've got 4 core units, and then you have 5 different streams that they could do. So one could be finance, another one could be marketing, another one could be HR. And so they've got to do those core, and then they can choose to do the finance stream, or they could do the core and they choose to do the HR stream. So you might have more electives than required, but each of those streams and the core would make up the full hours required. And that could be another rationale of why you've chosen the units that you've chosen. Okay. Once again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask any questions. I'm hoping I'm clear and that you understand what I'm going through here. Okay, licensing requirements. Pretty straightforward. Is there a license outcome? If there isn't, we just delete this row. So, for example, if you're doing heavy vehicle licensing, of course, there'd be a license outcome. There are some shipping qualifications that have a licensed outcome as well. So it could be you're doing, I can't think of it at the moment, but you could be, doing a boat license. So they have to have that in there. It could be forklift, so they get a license outcome. So it's only if it's a license outcome that we put that in there. Okay, target client group. So the target client group, in this section here, we've listed a whole range of different possible client groups that you could target. Just because I've listed all of these doesn't mean that you should choose every single one of them, because what's going to happen is the auditor will say, all right, show me how your assessment tools are going to meet the individuals wanting to learn new skills. Also, show me how it's going to meet the individuals with disabilities. Also show me how it's going to meet the needs of existing industry workplace enterprise employees. So you have to make sure that your assessment tools actually meet all of those industry needs. So you should reduce them down to who are you targeting only. So only who you are targeting. So if you are targeting existing workers, then you should put existing workers, and it might be that they also are going to do traineeships. So you might select that one and that one, but you delete all the others. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't recruit any of these other students. That doesn't mean that at all. All that means is your training and assessment tools are targeted at existing workers and traineeships. If you happen to get new entrants or unemployed or people with disabilities, then you just adjust the training for those students. But your target audience are traineeships and existing workers. That's just an example. So you just need to hone in on who you want to target. Now, the bigger, as I said before, the more client group you have, the more the auditor is going to hone in and go, well, how are your assessment tools meeting that? How are your support services meeting that? How is everything else meeting that within your TAS to meet that target group? So you need to, another target group could be that you're specifically writing it for one organisation. So it could be a client target group is this organisation or employees of this organisation or employees of this specific industry who, and this is their profile, this is their background. So that's your client target group. Selection criteria following that is based on that target group. What are the entry requirements for them to do this course before they even enter the course? They must have this beforehand. So we always have your reading, writing, oral, communication, and numeracy, because I think anybody doing a course needs to have these skills. So they should have a level that is actually going to be suitable for them to actually commence this course. So we always have those in there. You might want to adjust those to specific, what's specific to your industry. So we've just done a motherhood statement of what is reading and writing, what is oral communication, what is numeracy and mathematics, but you might want to adjust that specifically for your students, and you're allowed to adjust that. So we recommend that you do. The more you contextualise this training and assessment strategy, the more you'll own it, and it will be more your language and what you understand, so that you can explain it at audit. So we'll teach you how to explain it, but you'll need to explain it at audit. Now, these other ones, there might be other requirements. It might be that they must have a driver's licence before they start this course. So in particular, if you're doing heavy vehicle licensing, you're going to have a driver's licence first. And there might even be that you have to have a driver's licence and you've got to be on a minimum of a red P, or it could be that you have to be on your green Ps. So there could be a minimum requirement on there. We tend to leave they must be over the age of 18, because that cuts out you having to do working with children check. So if you say, okay, they must be 18, then you don't have to have all your staff do working with children check. But if you do say you're going to take students under the age of 18, then all of your training staff and your admin staff will have to undertake a working with children check. So, and even if you down the track put must be over age of 18, and then you do accept students under the age of 18, you're going to have to make sure your staff have working with children check, which is not a big job. It's not a major thing. It's just an online system where you submit staff details and they do a working children check and then send you back the report. So it's not a major thing, but we just put it in to start with because we don't need any other hurdles at the moment. We just need to get you through your registration, which is our number one goal. And so you might have other entry requirements. It might be that they've got to have a certain amount of hours. So I know with boat licenses, they've got to have a certain amount of hours to get the coxswain level. They've got to have hours on the boat before. So I remember coxswain. Okay, so there might be some other requirements that you might have. For first aid and some other qualifications, you may need to be physically fit. And with first aid in particular, you can't take people in a wheelchair to deliver first aid and to do a first aid course. And the reason why, if they can't get on the floor, so this includes people with bad knees and bad backs, if they can't get on the floor and do the compressions, then they're not physically fit. So, and that's basically what you work out. And sometimes you'll get people who will turn up at the course. They could do the course, not a problem, but they can't get the outcome for it. They can't get the license outcome or the certificate because they're not physically fit. So in particular, like the work cover requirements for first aid. So that's some examples of selection criteria. Okay, client needs. So client needs, this is one that came, it's new this year. It wasn't audited last year or previously. And it's how we've identified what are the possible client needs that you will have for your typical, so where we've gone back up here, this is your client group. How are you going to meet their needs? So if they're existing workers, you're not going to have, well, it depends. You could have students with who might have a disability. So how are you going to help them with that disability? So with these tying in with the policies and procedures, so we've got these in there, and that we've got here. Please refer to the new one's been updated for this, sorry, with the new standards. But please refer to the Q&C manual, which has the policy and procedure on how you're going to meet the client needs. So they should refer to that and all staff should refer to that too. So we've just got some standard lines. So L&N, you pretty much every course that you have, you're going to have possible students who will have L&N need, and then how are you going to meet that need? So we've said L&N assessments will be conducted to all students who do not currently hold a Certificate 3 qualification or above. And this is a policy and procedure in the manual. So it's under 1.7 in the standards. So we've covered that. You'll do an L&N assessment. It could be a typical students, could be English as a second language. So you're going to do LN assessments and you're going to monitor them during the class. So this is just some examples of something going to. So maybe some here that may not be relevant to history, or they just couldn't possibly. So one we have is you may not be able to take students who have a mental disability. So we may have to adjust this section with disabilities that are specific to your organisation. So if they have a disability, then you may need to remove this. It may be that the qualification you're going to deliver, they can't have a mental disability. So the example I was giving for a rail corridor, they could have a mental disability, but they couldn't have a physical disability because they need to be able to get around. So we had to stipulate what the disability was. So you should be adjust those. Most of the time you can just leave it. You might have some additional ones that you might want to add here. If you don't, then we just delete that row. Okay, reasonable adjustment is just how you're going to adjust the training to meet the student's needs. This is all a policy and procedure. It's all in the manual. Generally, we just leave that. We don't change anything in that. Consultation. Consultation is huge in the training and assessment strategy. They really want to see, the auditors really want to see, and it says it in the legislation, that you have consulted with industry, identified from them what they want in their training, how they want the training to be delivered, what should be included. There might be specific units they want you to do. They might have specific skills that they want you to develop. And you should be taking that consultation and putting it into your training and assessment strategy. So often what happens, particularly when we go to re-registration for clients, we find that they consult with industry, but they don't take that data and put it into the training and assessment strategy, which makes it useless. Why collect the data if you're not actually going to do anything with that data? So it's really important, and the auditors are hammering this year. They really want to see, how have you consulted, who have you consulted with, and how have you adjusted your training and assessment to meet those needs? So the first section here is method of consultation. This is in our policy and procedure. You have this set in there. This is how you're going to consult. You're going to go to industry workshops. You're going to have industry skills councils, industry surveys. So we provide you with a survey that you can conduct. That's a simple one. You should be doing all of these, not just the industry surveys. We give you the survey, but there are so many more things. You need to do workshops. You need to go have meetings with industry. So if you've been to a meeting anywhere that's with industry, get some evidence of that. Some minutes of meetings that you attended, anything that lists your name, that you attended that session, a letter from that organisation to say that you regularly attend these meetings and this is what you discuss. But any evidence you can collect that demonstrates that you're meeting with industry and you're discussing the issues in that industry and how you can resolve that with your training and assessment. You should be gathering as much of that as possible. You specifically deliver training for a specific company, so it might be one company, or you own another company and you're setting up a training organisation and you're planning on delivering training for that company, you should do a training needs analysis. And we've got a form there for you. It's just a couple of questions or 2 pages of questions that you've got to ask. And you just go through and are specifically looking at this organisation and their skills and knowledge that are required within that organisation. And you can identify, okay, how can we adjust our training to meet that organisation's need? So if you have a company now, or you know someone that you can be working with who will be hiring you for your training, you should write a training needs analysis. It's perfect. It has all the data that you need for helping to write the TAS. So you should also subscribe to newsletters, and at audit they're going to want to see evidence of that subscription to newsletters. So they're going to want to see either emails or even printed copies of those newsletters and how you've actually engaged with industry. And so that could be our newsletters, it could be newsletters from the Industry Skills Council, it could be VELG training newsletters or ACPEC. There's a range of different newsletters. I'm sure you would know a whole heap about your industry anyway, and it's you need to show that. And then the last one is engaging experts, which is us. So engaging consultants to help you so we can show them that you're doing that. Okay, here is just where we survey data that you've collected. So when you return them to us, you'll see a lot. We'll put these in here. If you had a support, we can pop that in there. We've provided you with a template. It's not a strong one, particularly if you just copy and paste our template. You really need to get the employer to adjust it a bit and put in some really important reasons why this organisation wants to support your application to become an RTO and how this training is actually going to support them. We're talking about the training needs analysis. This is where you're going to be putting in the training needs analysis and the data that you've collected. Now, this section is really small on here, but it's actually huge. This should be a few paragraphs. Like you could fill a whole page just on the feedback from consultation and how you've addressed that feedback. And this could be feedback not just from all of that stuff up above, the surveys and letters of support and everything. This could be meetings you've been to. This could be discussions you've had in the hallway with companies or other people you've worked with or people you work with in your own company. So what you've identified, so if you have another company in that industry, it could be discussions you've had in your own, oh, really, we'd like to have training that meets these skills requirements, and then you've discussed how you can improve that. So that's your feedback from consultation. So you don't have to take it, like your CLO is going to try and pull some of that from the surveys, but you can add more and more and more. Just add whatever anything you thought that's feedback about how we can improve training and assessment in this industry, that should go in there. Addressing the feedback so this should reflect the feedback that you received. So if you had feedback that said the hours in this course are not long enough in the industry at the moment, we want more hours, you should put, addressing the feedback, you should put, we're going to increase the hours, or we're not going to increase the hours because that won't make us competitive. But there should be some sort of rebuttal to that feedback from consultation. So you should be saying, okay, they want more hours, we can't possibly do more hours, or they want more hours and so we're going to increase hours. Or it could be they want specific training in this skills area. So we selected this unit because that meets that skill area. So that's how you can address it. So fluff this up. You would know so much feedback that you've received. So many times I've been to audit where a client has said, oh yeah, we do this consultation and we go to these meetings and we talk about it. And I'm like, hello, we could have put that in the TAS. So you need to put that in. When we give this to you to review, put that in there. Okay, staff matrix. So it looks like it might be a really big document that you need to fill in, but this is basically a resume that your trainers and assessors should complete. Now you should give this to your trainer and assessor and they should complete it. It's a really important document, and it's a document we're going to give to the client, to the auditor before they come to audit. So it includes the trainer's name, their qualifications are in here. So this text here is greyed, so you'll have to type over it and then change the text to black when you type over it. So we've just greyed it so that you know that it's not meant to stay there, and we know it's not meant to stay there. So you should put the qualification that they actually hold, what they're going to be delivering, any memberships that they have, any professional development. So this could be quite long. It could be quite a big box with lots of information about the PD. If your trainers hold the actual qualification and the actual units that you're going to be delivering, so the same qualification level, so if it was children's services, for example, they actually hold the current one, CHC 30113, I can't remember all the numbers, but 11313 is the most current one, then you only have to map down to the unit level. So you should put the unit in and what is their relevant skills and experience against that unit. So it can't be just like we've given you an example there of where did they work, how long did they work there for, so just like a resume, what their position was, and what did they do? And this is really important. What did they do to provide care for children? So it should be quite involved. So it should be that you worked in a room with what was the age group and things like that. So if you're doing the first aid unit, put the first aid unit, you put And for first aid, they want to know that you've been a first aid officer, that you've actually used the first aid skills, and that you actually have experience at delivering first aid. So not delivering first aid training, actually using first aid skills. So they want to see evidence of that in here, and that's what you should be doing. You could put things like, you've responded to this many emergencies, or these are the typical types of emergencies that we've responded to, and things like that. So it's really important in this section that you fill this out. Now, if you don't hold the current qualification, you should actually upgrade. You should get the new unit. Otherwise, we're going to have to map you down right down to the performance criteria level. So we have to go right down to the level of, for provide care for babies and toddlers, it will go down to, nappy changing and feeding children and things like that. We have to go right down to the performance criteria. I highly recommend you get the qualification, because that's going to be easier than mapping down to the performance criteria level. And we'll hammer this when we go to mock audit, because this is where we get most of the non-compliances, is the trainers and assessors not completing this properly. And then this section here is the qualification that they actually hold that maps to that unit. So you should go, this is a qualification and they have this unit exactly. So you should have that mapped in there. So this one's really, really important that you complete that properly, and we'll absolutely hammer it and the auditor will. With your pre-audit docs, which as will go, TAS is one of them, and staff matrix is another, they'll also want to see these certificates. They'll want to see this PD, they'll want to see the qualifications, so you'll need to send that before the audit, so they'll want to see that. But your CLO will help you with that. Okay, so that's staff matrix. Physical resources. This here, basically, I just want you to put the name of the textbook, the name of, if you don't know all of these, put self-developed. We just need, I've just given you an example of how you should normally put a textbook in, but you don't have to put it in that order. They just need to know what the name of the textbook is. If you're the author, put your name down as the author. If it's a publisher that's the author, just put the publisher. Don't put the author in there. And if you got it from a website, you should put the website in there. And then same with the assessment tools. So you have that. It might be the same company, so just copy and paste it. So if it's the same in there. You don't need to worry about anything else, just these purple areas. Training facilities. Training facilities is really important. This, and it should be at our site where we deliver our training. This is what's there. This is the tables, the chairs, the kitchen. We have a computer room or whatever you have in there. This is what it is at your training site. So what you have in there. Okay, so it's just basically your training site. This here is the resources you specifically need for this qualification. So this training facilities one is basically going to be the same across every single TAS, because it will be the same training facility. But this facilities and resources, specifically for this qualification, we need these resources. And your CLO will take this from the training package. So they'll pull out the units and they'll, not units, the resources, and plug them in here. And if it's in the training package, you must have access to these resources. There's no ifs or buts. The student must have access to these resources. So if you're doing rope training, for example, or shipping, so boat hand, you should have all the ropes in place so that they can use all those ropes. So whatever they put in there, you have to make sure you have there. Now, if you don't have all of these, so we're going to list them all here, but if you don't have all these resources, do you have somewhere where you can hire them, or a room you can go to, or a company? So for example, childcare, you might have a childcare centre that you can go to, or a play group you can go to, and all the resources are there. So you should list, if you've got an external facility, what resources are at that external facility, and they should include some of these resources up the top here, in here. So you may not have them at your training site up here, but you should have them across the three. You should have all of these resources, so the student should be able to have access to them. Now, if you have external resources, then you need to make sure that you have an MOU or a contract or something like that with the company to use those resources. And the auditor will want to see that, particularly if they can't see the resources audit, they'll want to see the resources following. They want to see that you've got a contract or agreement in place that lists all those resources. So you must have on the agreement listed the resources that that provider will give you access to. And these are really, really important, because if you don't have this, it'll be non-compliance and you will have to rectify it. And it's really hard to do that following the audit when the auditor, because the auditor doesn't come back for rectification. So we need to be able to demonstrate in a different way. Okay, so that's resources. So we'll hammer you about that. I'm running out of time, just trying to move along, but that is a really important area. Infrastructure, we've just done a basic, change anything. Unless you think you want to, you might want to do something like this, but every RTO should have this basic infrastructure in. So that's what we put in there. Now, your delivery methodology, huge. You must have this really well defined. We can give you an idea, we've given you a template, but this is up to you. You need to make sure that you set this up how you plan to deliver and assess, because we can't do this for you. We can't go to audit and say to the auditor, this is what you're going to do, because you need to know. This is your training organisation. You need to know how to do this. So it needs to be, now, how are you going to do it? Is it going to be, is it going to be simulated? Is it going to be on the job? You need, we're giving you some examples. You just delete what's not applicable or change it. If you have a different mode of delivery, you can change that in there. In the training pack, you might say that you must have a simulated work environment. The CLO will identify this for you. So you need to put in, if it does say simulated, so for example, the rail corridor course we did, they actually had to set up a railway track with signs and lighting and pictures and things like that. So it made it look like a rail corridor. So you need to describe what is that simulated environment. So the rail corridor, you've got to explain that here in the simulated work environment. So for first aid, you've got to do a simulated work environment. So how are you going to do that? So how are you going to do that with your training? You're going to have dummies or mannequins, and you're going to have scenarios, and you're going to set up the scenarios so that they're realistic to the workplace and what you're going to be doing. So that's what you need to put in there. So we'll identify that you need relation, but you need to identify how you're going to do it. So this part's delivery structure is pretty, like, I think this is pretty easy, but not everyone does. It's like, how many sessions are you going to have? How many hours in those sessions in total? What's it? So this relates back to your volume of learning back up the top. So where we've talked about your self-paced, your face-to-face hours, work placement, volume of learning, and things like that. That's where we're going to plug that in down here. So we need to then, that delivery structure needs to reflect that volume of learning up top. So you should have all your hours in there. And this should relate to your delivery and assessment plan. So we're back to the delivery and assessment plan. So this delivery and assessment plan only requires full quals. If you're doing a single unit session plan, much easier. You're just focusing on one unit and you're just looking at how you're going to deliver that one unit. Do not overcomplicate this. It doesn't, I don't need a textbook on how you're going to deliver and assess, because the likelihood of a trainer ever looking at that is zero. So you need to make it really simple, and it's something that you give. So this delivery and assessment plan is something you give trainers and assessors so that they know how you want this to be delivered and assessed. What order, really important, is what order of the units. They should do this unit first, these are the cores, or it could be they're going to do all the cores first and then they're going to do the electives, and you should have your weeks down here. If you're doing a single unit, nice and easy, but if you're doing full quals, you need to break it down how many weeks, what the unit is, and what resources are required. Pretty simple. It's just unit, and they don't care what order you put it in, just put it in some sort of logical order. The auditor's not going to hammer you about this. They just want to see it. They want to see that it's clear, and you're going to give it to the student, and the student knows exactly what unit's going to be delivered when. Okay. Work placement. If there's any work placement, you need to put that in here, and what are the requirements of the work placement for the student. So remember, this delivery and assessment plan goes to the trainer and assessor, but it also goes to the student. So it gives a good outline to the student. Assessment plan. So same as the delivery plan up there, sorry, the training timetable up there, we've got an assessment plan. So when are you going to assess each unit? And what type of tasks are there? So if you've got a textbook with the tasks already in there, you're just going to pull those tasks out. What is the task name and what's the page number? It's pretty simple. So you're just going to put them in here. So they're all going to go in there. And when is the due date? So when is that assessment tool going to be due? So you just put that in there. So you can say week 6, week 7, week 8. You don't have to say an actual date. You just say what week number will that be. Okay. Any other tasks that the student may be required to complete, you can add that. That's optional. You don't have to put that on there. This delivery plan. So the delivery, we've got a guide here. So this, as I said, you can give this to the trainer, the student. So it tells you what to do. Here you need to put the competency in their topics, the duration and things like that. So you should put, so these should map up with the others above. This is the unit. This is the topics we're going to cover in that unit. This is how long it should take. You could see for a single unit, you could do this for a single unit as well. You just delete all those other rows, but you could do it for that. The duration, what activities are you going to do in that session? Are there activities in the textbook? So you're just copying and pasting from up above. What are the resources? So this just repeats itself again, but you're adding a bit more detail in this section. Okay, that's delivery assessment. That's a very, very quick version of the delivery assessment plan. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them there and we could get back to you about those. But I've tried to write this in a way, so this stuff, the structure, that should come straight out of the TAS. As I said here, comes straight out of the TAS. And you should basically copy and paste it. So where we had this section here, we're basically copying and pasting that from here. So this section here, mode of delivery, and your delivery structure into the delivery and assessment plan. So that's basically what you're doing. It's not hard. I get so many clients who just overcomplicate this and they try and put all this information there that's not relevant. Just think, you're the student, read this as a student, or you're the trainer and you're brand new to this organisation. You should give it to someone who's never been in your organisation, get them to read it and see if they understand it. If they understand it, then you're right. Okay? Just keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple. Okay. Such a delivery assessment plan. So assessment methods, we've identified the different types of assessment methods. You should delete what's not applicable. So in assessment tools, you may have or may not oral observation demonstration. If you do, leave it. If you don't, take it out. Same oral, written, all of those. So you just take out what's not relevant. You should have an assessment mapping tool. Now, this assessment mapping tool, most tools have them, so you should be able to get them from there. If you've developed your own, you're going to have to write one, and that is where you take every unit and every assessment tool and you map for that, performance criteria within the unit. You map that performance criteria against the assessment task. So we should know by the end that, you know, this performance criteria is in this assessment task and this assessment task. So when you go to audit, the auditor is going to know straight away. You're going to be able to show them. They're going to say performance criteria, blah blah blah. Show me this in your assessment tool. You'll be able to go, yep, it's in this one, it's in this one. Pull it out and show it. So you want to make it nice and easy that way. Do we need to mention self-paced hours in the delivery plan? Yes, you can put that in there. Yes, definitely. You can put your self-paced hours in there as well. So that's not a problem. You just, that would be, I haven't put a spot in here, but that would definitely be in your structure in here. So you can put your self-paced hours in there. And you could also put in what you're doing in those hours. So you could pop them in here. So you could say, so not in the training, so when we get to the last bit, down your delivery plan, those activities could be, these are the activities and these are what they've got to do at home. So these are the stuff they've got to do at home or pre-reading and things like that. So you'd put them in this section here. Okay? All right. If you don't have a mapping tool, I highly recommend you do, but if you don't, we map. So we do it this way. And it's not as good, so because this is just mapped against different types of methods. You can change this to the actual assessment tools. So you could do that. So you could say assessment task 1 is A, assessment task 2 is B, you know, et cetera, and then we could cross here. And you could even put, you know, question 1 is this one. Question 7 or 6 is this one. So we put the unit and we can actually, that's just a really basic mapping tool. So you could actually put it in that way. So that's a nice, easy way to do it. And I'll do that. The one from the publisher. Okay. We're back to the delivery and assessment plan here, just saying that that's what you're doing. We've just outlined the rules of evidence and principle assessment, basic stuff. This validation process is our policy and procedure, and we have it in the procedure manual, and we provide you with assessment validation schedule. So it's just a template where we map the units. The CLO will get that over to you, and then you just need to prioritise it. So to actually be, just see if I've got that quickly. Assessment validation schedule. Okay. So the CLO will put the units in here. You're going to rate it. So this is your risk rating up here, low, medium, high. You know, your best qualification, so you should put the risk rating in. And then you put the units, risk for that, when you're going to validate it. So if it's high risk, they should be validated first. If it's low risk, you can do it later. And this is over a 3-year period. So you've got to have all your tools validated over a 5-year period, but this schedule is going to be over a 3-year period. So you have to have 50% of your assessment tools validated within the first 3 years. So 50% of them should be in here, and this is tick straight away, tick compliant. We don't have to do anything else with that. Okay, that's validation process. Monitoring improvement is just standard policies and procedures. You should sign this. So before we send it to the auditor, you should actually sign it. Auditors haven't really been picking it up, but that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sign it off. And you should review it each year. So the date here should be a year from this date. So you should put the which your CLO will do that. And any attachments. So we only list you any attachments that you had. No other attachments should go there except for the ones that are attached. So when we submit, so that's it for the TAS. We submit your TAS to the auditor. Any attachments listed here, the auditors also wants to see these. So when you get your audit date, they will say, give you a list of pre-audit docs. One of them is training and assessment strategies, and anything you list here as an attachment must also go with those pre-audit docs. So you must include these. Okay, that's training and assessment strategies. I'm hoping you have a better understanding. Has anybody got any questions? No questions? All right, so if you don't have any questions about TASs, do you have any other burning question that you want to ask me? No, anything you want to ask. We've got 5-10 minutes left. If you would like to ask a question, go for it. God, I must have overwhelmed you all. Okay, I'm really glad that I was able to give you as much information as you needed. And that I see a couple of people have also logged out, so I must have overwhelmed them with so much information. I'm hoping you have a much better understanding of training and assessment strategies now, and you know what you need to do with that training assessment strategy. I've got Emma on the line as well. She's just said, I've got a client who wished to ask if RTOs are GST exempt. Could you please just advise everyone of this? Yes, GSTs, yeah, all training, particularly accredited training, all accredited training is GST free. That's just the government requirement, although the government are talking about taking away that threshold and making everything have GST. But at the moment, it's GST free. Even my accountant didn't know that when I owned my RTO, so don't ask your accountant because they have no idea. All training is GST free. When I owned my own RTO, I always had a refund. It was brilliant. Now I don't, because we're not GST free what we do now, so it's a bit of a pain in the neck. But anyway, it's really good. And the great thing is if you have a training organisation where you also have another business connected under the same company name, it's a bit of a pain if you want to go sell it because you've got to sell it all together, but you can claim the input tax and what you used in the other company against your RTO because it's GST free. So, you know, you might want to think about that. Any other questions? No. Okay, I've got one. In assessment validation program, who will be the group of assessors, inside or outside from the RTO? So, assessment validation. Okay, we do this in our workshop, but I'll do a quick overview. So assessment validation is made up of a panel, but that panel could be one person. But that panel should be, and I don't think I'll be able to show you. Can I do? Let's see if I can draw it. No, I haven't done that yet, so I don't know how to draw. Okay, so if you have a trainer assessor who's delivered certificate to in childcare, for example, and they've got a range of students that they've delivered training to, and they've got their assessment tools, they can't validate their own tools. You have to get another trainer and assessor who has the same qualification, so they must have a minimum certificate for and training assessment or assessor units from their TAE, and they must hold a minimum of the qualification that they're teaching, and they must have a minimum of 3 years industry experience, so they can validate this person's assessment tools and this assessor can validate this person's assessment tool. If you only have one assessor and you have no other, you can have a panel, so you can have that assessor, but they don't get to make the decision, and you can have other people within the RTO who can be on the panel, and the other people are the ones that make the decision about that assessment validation. It's all in under 1.9 in the policy and procedure manual. I explain it all within there. I hope that answers your question. Another one. If an RTO sells resources, is this GST free? No. So if you sell your training resources, that's not GST free, but you can claim that as an input. So the person who buys those resources can then claim that as an input on their end, but you have to collect GST on that. Did I answer your question, Alami? Answer the one about the GST, that's fine. Okay. Are room hire agreements and MOU the same thing? No. So an MOU is a memorandum of understanding, and the memorandum of understanding is I have an understanding with this. So we have an MOU specifically for work placement. So I have an MOU with this organisation that they will take 10 students, 20 students over the year, and they will have all these resources in place, and they'll be able to give the students access to these resources. So that's specifically for work placement. And another type of MOU could be you have a memorandum of understanding with a company that you're going to go in and use their resources. It's a bit different. Then you might have a room hire agreement. So a room hire agreement is I've hired a company, I'm just using their room, that's all I'm doing, and I have an agreement to do that. So an example we had recently is someone who's doing aged care training. They have an aged care facility where they're going to do their training at that aged care facility, and it's just a room. They've just hired the room, but they've also got access to all the materials. So in that room hire agreement, they need to list this, we've got access to this room. In that room is going to be all this equipment. This is what's listed, but the students will also have access to all of this other equipment within the facility. So that's a room hire agreement. Or it could be you just hire a company. There's a place in Sydney called Clifton's where it's just, they just do training room hire. So you'll get training room agreement from them. They'll give that to you. Or it could be a lease for an office or service apartment or something like that. You should have that. But an MOU, the memorandum of understanding of, it could be, an MOU could be you have someone coming in and delivering some units for the qualification. So the MOU is, it might be another RTO, and your memorandum of understanding is with them to come and deliver those units within your RTO, and they're going to issue the certificate. And they're just going to do credit transfer within your RTO. So that's some examples of MOU. No more questions? I think those. Any other questions? I think we're right. Thank everyone for attending today. We didn't have a big group. It was great having you here. I'm hoping you got a lot out of it, and that your information and be able to use it to help your RTO. And what was really important, the reason why we're doing this monthly basis now is so that you have direct contact with me on a monthly basis and ask me those questions. If you have any questions where you're like, oh, this I really understand, or if this is a difficult question, it might be a business question, because the CLOs are specialists in training and assessment, not business. I can answer questions about marketing and business development and how you should deliver your training or what you need to do. So bring those questions on. I think I wanted to show you, sorry, I'm just going to show you my desktop again. I've got something very exciting that's going to be happening soon. This is the new dashboard they're going to get on Unicorn. So when you log into Unicorn. It's not released yet, it'll be released this week. So you're going to be, I don't think it yet, it's all thinking about it, I think. Can you see, can anybody see that yet? Should see Unicorn. Oh, there we go. I think it's just up now. Can you see it now? Anybody? No, that's not good. It's saying I'm sharing. How about now? Could be slow internet. What are you seeing? Is it just me? As soon as you say it, let me know. I'm hoping you can see the training and strategy. Oh, it says it's loading. All right, awesome. Sorry, we've got a bit slow internet. 30 seconds. Okay, so I've got to be patient. I'm not a very patient person. Thanks, Bill. Bill did nothing but your smiling face very much. Okay, screen sharing has started. Yes, can you see it? You should see Unicorn. Yes, yay. Okay, all right. So this is what the new, when you log into Unicorn, this is what it'll look like. You're going to have all the different packages on the left-hand side. Oh, we've got a few. This is our test one. So we've got a few in this one because it's just a test one. So you should your package and you'll see the progress in here. So you'll see whether it's paid, that stage is paid, whether it's in progress. If it's red, it means you're overdue. If it's blue, it's in progress. If it's green, it's complete. So I think we've got some completed ones there. And now you'll be able to click straight in to your documents for that stage, which I just love because you would just be able to log in and just access a document. We're so excited. There's so many exciting things that are going to be happening with this. We want to make it really user-friendly for you so that you actually log in. And one of the things we've got now, very exciting, is we've got our Facebook feed on the right-hand side here. So you'll be able to see all my lovely posts. So if you don't have Facebook, you can see my posts. This is where I post regularly. So I had one yesterday. I had a client who we got through, yay. They were non-compliant at audit and we had to do some rectifications. We had a whole heap of issues with the auditor who I'm going to complain about because it's a stupid auditor. Anyway, and so he was pretty excited. So he sent me an email. So I'll post things like that. So if you send me an email, I'll post that. We put the membership package, which we talked about there. I put some information on there about the new budget, what was coming out of the budget. So there's some really important stuff. This is all about what's going to affect you as a small business. So you should get on there. There's lots of posts on there and things like that. So you can also like me on Facebook as well. But if you don't have Facebook now, you can just log into Unicorn and you can access our Facebook feed. Hey! So it's pretty exciting. Here you'll have, and I don't think that's started yet. If you have any tasks, they will be listed here. So you're going to have tasks, which is pretty exciting. I haven't got any tasks at the moment, but when we do, you're going to have a list of tasks here of what you should do. So if you're in the TAS stage, it'll tell you that you need to do some industry consultation, that you need to complete some surveys and all the things that you need to do at that stage. And so these will be listed here. So I highly recommend that you log on to Unicorn at least once a week. I'd love it if you did it every day, but at least once a week, and you can actually have a look at your tasks. So with the time you've allotted for working on our task, you can jump on and have a look. And these tasks are exactly the same as the one in the Kickstart guide. So you'll be able to log in and have a look at those tasks. I don't think we have anybody who's not doing Kickstart. They're all Kickstart here. So you'll be able to see all your tasks there. And there's more coming. There's lots more coming in here as well. So you'll be able to, we're going to have like a quote of the day and compliance tip of the day. It's going to be not quite, but compliance tip of the day. We're going to have an interactive forum where you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to ask your question, and then within 48 hours we'll answer those questions. So you can be able to log in at any time of the day and night and put those in there. So please get on there. I'm looking forward to seeing your questions and getting access to all of those. All right, thank you very much. I hope you got a lot out of today, and we're looking forward to catching up with you next month. I'm looking forward to catching up with you next month. If you have any suggestions on what you would like me to talk about next month, please post them now. So it might be about business, it might be about the package, it might be about audit, what you have to do at audit. Any questions you have, please post them now. You're going to have a survey you're going to complete following this. And on that, I've also asked, is there anything else what would you like to see in future webinars? So any of those types of questions, I'd love to see what you want to know. I know TAS is one of our areas where we need to help you, support you more in the TAS stage, and that's why we started with that one. But if you have any other area, please post it, and we want to talk about, I want to deliver training on what you need to know. Okay, we've gone over our hour. So thank you very much for attending today, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks, guys. Bye.